The Indian Ocean has emerged as one of the most important trade routes and geopolitical hotspots in the 21st century. With China's rising economic and military power, there is increasing competition between China and other powers like India and the United States over influence in the Indian Ocean region. In this video, we'll look at why the Indian Ocean is so important for global trade, why China wants greater control over it, and what alternatives China is pursuing to counter reliance on Indian Ocean trade routes. Let's dive in the video. The importance of the Indian Ocean for trade. The Indian Ocean carries immense economic significance today. It connects Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, and Southeast Asia regions that are home to over 2 billion people. According to some estimates, nearly half of the world's container traffic and 70% of global petroleum shipments pass through the Indian Ocean. It also accounts for around 40% of the world's offshore petroleum production. The Indian Ocean contains several strategically important shipping lanes and choke points like the Strait of Malacca through which a large portion of global energy supplies flow. Disruption to shipping in the Indian Ocean could have disastrous consequences for the global economy. Major ports along the Indian Ocean network, like Singapore, Colombo, and Dubai, serve as critical hubs for regional and global trade. With some of the fastest-growing economies in the world surrounding the Indian Ocean, it is rapidly increasing in importance as a trade and energy transportation hub connecting the suppliers in the Middle East and Africa with the big consumers in Southeast and East Asia. For India, the Indian Ocean is of critical economic significance, with over 90% of its global merchandise trade by volume and 70% by value passing through these waters. India is heavily dependent on energy imports from the Persian Gulf transiting through the Indian Ocean. Any disruption to Indian Ocean trade would severely impact India's economy. China's interest in the Indian Ocean. China depends heavily on Indian Ocean sea lanes for its trade and energy lifeline, but feels vulnerable due to its lack of control. The majority of China's trade passes through maritime choke points like the Strait of Malacca that are vulnerable to disruption. As the world's largest oil importer, China also relies on uninterrupted oil supplies from the Middle East and Africa that pass through the Indian Ocean. Beyond economic motivations, control over the Indian Ocean also figures prominently in China's regional power projection plans as an emerging superpower. It allows China to protect and expand its security interests in South Asia and the Middle East. A stronger naval presence in the Indian Ocean also allows China to challenge India's supremacy in the region. As part of its Maritime Silk Road initiative, China is investing heavily in Indian Ocean ports and infrastructure projects in countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. This is causing concern in India, which sees the Indian Ocean as its sphere of influence. Chinese control over ports like Gwadar in Pakistan or Hambantota in Sri Lanka could give its navy strategic footholds in the region, allowing it to project power and protect its interests far from its shores. China is also expanding its naval capabilities and deployments in the Indian Ocean. It established its first overseas military base in Djibouti in the Horn of Africa and has stepped up naval patrols, port calls, and exercises in the region. This expanding military footprint reflects China's ambitions to become a true maritime power. India's response. China's growing assertiveness in the Indian Ocean poses a major strategic threat to India. India sees the Indian Ocean as its backyard and natural sphere of influence. It is wary of any encroachment by China into the region. India has upgraded its naval capabilities and strategy to counter China's moves. It has deployed new warships, submarines, and surveillance aircraft to keep a close eye on Chinese naval activity. India is also expanding port facilities and naval air stations in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands near the Malacca Straits. New Delhi has also stepped up naval cooperation with like-minded countries through joint exercises, training, and technology sharing. The annual Malabar naval drills with the US and Japan are aimed at forging naval interoperability to counter China. India is also pursuing closer maritime ties with key Indian Ocean countries. China's alternatives to Indian Ocean trade routes. To diversify its trade routes and energy supplies and reduce dependence on routes through the Indian Ocean, China is pursuing several initiatives. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor provides China with overland access to the Arabian Sea through the port of Gwadar, allowing it to bypass reliance on the Strait of Malacca and shipping lanes in the Indian Ocean. However, the route traverses unstable Pakistani territory. New Silk Road through Central Asia. As part of its Belt and Road Initiative, China is building rail, road, and pipeline networks to Central Asia and Europe. This serves as an alternative overland route for Chinese trade with Europe. But the route is longer and passes through sparsely populated, underdeveloped terrain. Arctic shipping. As climate change leads to melting ice in the Arctic, China is seeking access to potential new shipping routes through the Arctic Ocean. In 2021, a Chinese cargo vessel successfully sailed through the Arctic unassisted for the first time. But commercial viability is still doubtful given unpredictable ice conditions. Southeast Asian overland routes. China is developing rail and road links through Southeast Asia to ports in the Pacific and Bay of Bengal that allow it to bypass the South China Sea and Strait of Malacca. But the challenging terrain limits feasibility. Energy pipelines. China has built oil and gas pipelines from Central Asia, Russia, and Myanmar to diversify supplies. But capacity is limited and China still depends heavily on Indian Ocean maritime routes. Control over the Indian Ocean is considered a strategic imperative by China as well as other major powers like the United States and India due to its importance for trade and access to energy resources. China's efforts to expand its foothold in the region are resulting in growing geopolitical tensions and competition, especially with India. Although China is exploring alternatives, the Indian Ocean still remains the critical lifeline for its economy in the foreseeable future. At the same time, India is committed to maintaining its regional dominance and strategic autonomy. The turbulent geopolitics of the Indian Ocean will therefore have major implications for global stability and security. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more geopolitical insights.